Hey guys, Ryan Black, Real Estate Investor here, and in today's video, I'm going to try something a little bit different. We always have a lot of adventures in real estate investing, and so I thought it might be fun from time to time to share some of the stories, some of the things that have happened to us, some of the things that we've seen, and share some of the experiences that we've had so that you can learn from those experiences and not make some of the same mistakes. So today, I'm going to share my first story, which is the story of the boarded up building. And this one is, well, it's a good story. The moral of this story is to show how driving for dollars in a matter of minutes can land you a really great property lead. You just have to keep your eyes peeled where you're driving. Okay. There's some of the information about this property I've changed, like the owner's name and the name of his company, because I just want to protect their privacy. But everything else is exactly as it was. And so let's get started. So a little while back, I was actually driving to another property to meet with a potential seller who was in distress. And as I was driving to there, I was, looking around as I was driving, and I saw, just out of the corner of my eye, I drove past a house, and it was, the windows were all boarded up, right? So you could tell there was kind of tall grass in the yard, the windows were all boarded up, and it was on kind of a main road, and it was in Ogden, Utah, and I thought, this is kind of interesting, this property, wonder what's going on. But it happened so fast, I wasn't able to even look and see, hey, where, what was the address or anything. I just kept going, and then I turned at the next street, or a couple streets down, I turned, and so I remembered, okay, where I turned, I looked at the two cross streets, and I figured out, okay, this is where I am. It was about 2 blocks west of here, so I'll look it up later when I get home. So what did I do? Once I got home, I went to my appointment and everything, and then when we were done, then I came back home, and I got on Google Street View. So on Google Street View, started figuring out, and because I remembered the front of the house was a red brick, and I remembered from short-term memory more or less what the house looked like. So I pulled it up in Google Street View and finally found the house. I'm like, great, here's the house. So I looked on the front of the house, no house number. Looked on the curb, no house number. So I'm thinking, oh boy, now how am I going to find this house? But it's okay, we got lots of tools. So next I went to the Weber County Interactive Map. So Ogden is in Weber County, and they've got the GIS maps, so you can pull up, the plots or the parcels, and click on them, and then it will tell you what the city street address is. So I went to the interactive map, pulled up exactly, because now I knew where it was by which streets, pulled it up and found the information for the physical address. Now that I have the physical address, now I can start really diving into some research. So I pulled out a couple of the key software that we use on a daily basis, which one is Renatus iOS, the other is FlipComp. Pulled those out, pulled up all the data on the property, the information, saw what the valuation was of the ARV of what it would be worth. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. The other place I wanted to check was the Weber County Recorder's Office. So I pulled up their website, and or the assessor's site, and noticed on there that the property was registered to a company. We'll call them ABC Inc. So ABC Inc. was the company that was registered as a registered owner for the taxes. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. And they're located in Layton, the city of Layton. So what did I do? I Googled ABC Inc. and the first result that came up was LinkedIn. I thought, oh great, they'll have contact info. I can call them and find out what the deal is with this property. So clicked on LinkedIn, no luck, right? Didn't find out anything there. It was pretty much blank. And so then I went to the Utah business search, right? Everything's online here in Utah. So did a business query for that name of that company. And I was able to confirm that ABC Inc. was owned by a guy named Steve. Once again, name changed, but by Steve, who lives in Layton, or who is registered address in Layton. So what did I do? I saw the address, I Google mapped the address, and then pulled it up, and lo and behold, it was a residence. Okay, so obviously this is where the registered agent of this company lives. So I then went on to the fountain of all knowledge, Facebook, and then from in Facebook, searched him up to see if I could find him, so I could send him a message or whatever via Facebook. He was not, I was unable to find him on Facebook, so I went onto my White Pages account, did a reverse address lookup, to where I punched in the address, and then it showed me what the number was, and it was his name that was listed at the address, and it was about 4 or 5 different numbers. And so I just started calling numbers. First, I shot out text messages to all the numbers, and then I just started calling them. And eventually got in contact with one of the numbers. When I person picked up and I said, "Hey, is this Steve?" "Yes, it is." "Hey, my name's Ryan. I'm calling about the property that you own, and I'm interested in potentially purchasing it. Do you have a minute to chat?" And he said, "Yeah." And so when I talked to him, what it was is actually a triplex. And so it was a triplex that he bought as an REO, and the prior owner had run out of money in the middle of the rehab. And so a demolition, and then it sat there for years. So a demolition order had been placed against the property, and he had listed it before a couple years ago at $39,000. And he just, at this point, was like, "I just want to get my money back, what I put into it. I bought it for $35. I'll sell it for $35. I just want to get rid of it." And it is zoned commercially. So I thought, okay, very interesting. Had a good conversation with him. We hung up, and then I called Ogden City to talk with code enforcement to find out more information about what's the deal with this demolition order. Can we get it canceled? Can we go? I also called my property manager to find out first what kind of rents we'd be looking at in that area, because it's a triplex, and second, if that was an area that we'd really want to own in. And so, because he knows the area really well. And one of the ideas that he came up with in our conversation shows the importance of having really good team members. Is he said, you'd actually make more money if you converted it from a triplex to a duplex, and he was going through the numbers. He said, you'll actually make more, and the rehab will be cheaper. So from every angle, it was going to be better to convert the triplex to the duplex, because it'd be a cheaper rehab because it was gutted, and then a cheaper, then we make more per rent. We could command more per unit. Even though there's less units in that area, we'd make a lot more. So that was a great little mastermind with my manager there, just figuring out what we could do. And then I just kind of continued doing research, talking with the seller, talking with the city. Unfortunately, after doing more due diligence, I came to the determination that removing the demolition order was not going to be possible. And at this point in time, I didn't want to take on a new construction project. We had enough going on that we didn't want to take on a project of that scale. And so, because we could have just demoed it and then built another building, or multifamily or single family, or a storefront or something, and then sold it or leased it. But the timing wasn't right, so it wasn't going to work for us. But what is interesting is the majority of that process besides when I drove past the property, but from when I sat down and Google Street Viewed the property until I was talking on the phone to the owner, that was like 12, 13 steps of different websites, different tools. It was like 10, 15 minutes. Like, it doesn't take that long. We as investors, we get to be detectives, and it's pretty fun because you see something, you think, how on earth am I going to find out who owns this or what the story is? It really doesn't take that long when you know how to do it and you can follow through all the steps and you have all the necessary tools. It's pretty easy to figure out who owns something, get in contact with them, and make an offer. And that was all because of driving for dollars. So it's really neat that, sometimes people think, or they say, I hear people say like, "Oh, well, I don't know, there's not really much real estate where I live, and there's not really opportunities, or it's a really competitive market right now." Do you drive? If you drive, anytime you're driving anywhere, keep your eyes peeled, because driving for dollars is real. It works. And this is a perfect example, even though in the end we didn't end up purchasing it because the numbers didn't work and we didn't want to take on a new construction project at the time. But that was a perfect example of being aware of your surroundings, doing a little bit of detective work, and in a matter of a couple of minutes, finding. And what was funny is when I talked to my manager, and he's like, wait, where is this property? And he pulled it up. He said, "No way. I have driven past that on probably a weekly basis for years and seen it and never once thought of calling." Because he's our manager, but he's also an investor. He's also a broker. And he also manages all our properties for us. And he's like, "I can't believe I didn't think of calling." So you never want to assume when you see something, oh, I bet somebody else has called on it already. If you see an opportunity, reach out, do some detective work, make those calls, because you never know, that could be your next deal. Once again, my name is Ryan Black. Hope you enjoyed this little story, a little bit of insight of the boarded up house and what we went through to, in the end, have a great learning experience. But I wanted to share it with you to show you kind of the steps of what we worked through. And every time is a little bit different, but this is a fun example of how we, in Driving for Dollars, found a really great potential lead that was sitting there out in the wide open for everyone to see, and nobody else had jumped on it.